first triathlon clinic of 2017. It's awesome that you're here, and I would say, like, it's gonna snow, and we all know that, but like there's a lot of things we can do in the winter time that, one, are fun, and two, to make the summer even more like enjoyable and stress-free. And part of that is coming to clinics like this just to get all the information. So I'm Gillian. I'm the owner of Live Grit, and I do enjoy doing clinics, so I do a lot of them. And this Kristen is over here. She is one of our grit endurance coaches. So kind of what I talked about, we're obviously a retail store, obviously, but we do a lot more, and part of that is we have a training, and some of that training is more about the community, like fun runs and things like that. And then we also do like full programs, you know, so you'll get a plan if you're in the first timers program or the Spree to She program that I'll talk about in a little bit. You'll get some kind of plan to follow, so that, you know, it's just not like go out, have fun, run, bike, whatever you want to do. Like, so at least you can have some direction, and Kristen will have a big hand in that. So if you have any training specific questions, talk to Kristen, and she'll have cards and stuff, and so you can have her email, and always feel free to reach out to her. So, and then we have Ann right here. So Ann is our resident bike fitter. Why that's, at this point, you may be like, that doesn't matter to me or whatever, but the big thing is that bikes tend to be one of the biggest kind of questions people have. And so she's the one that can answer all of your questions about, you know, why would I want this or not want this, or I'm using my mountain bike, you know, how can I be most comfortable for the triathlon, or like what kind of tires do I need, or all that stuff. Ann right here is the one that can answer all those questions. And also, you know, the one thing I would say about biking is a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just not comfortable, like the seat's not comfortable, but that's just biking. You know, biking should be fun, it should be comfortable, so if you're ever uncomfortable or in pain, like, that's not normal. Talk to Ann. So just knowing that out there. Yeah, so who is everybody in here doing their first triathlon or thinking about doing their first triathlon? I assume that's how everybody ended up here. Yeah, awesome. Has anybody signed up yet? Okay. Who's still on the fence? Nice. Okay, so we gotta convince you. Got it. Check. Has anybody signed up for Chicago? Okay, a lot of people. Anybody in the first timers program? Okay, awesome. Anybody signed up for? Well, it's not open, so you couldn't have signed up for a so never mind. Awesome. Well, so this clinic, I want it to be interactive. If you have questions, you know, we try to do kind of an outline of what I wish I had known before I did my first one, but if there's something along the way that doesn't make sense or you have more questions about it, please just ask. That's what we're here for, to kind of create that dialogue. And yeah, so brief overview of triathlons. So in a triathlon, you swim, you bike, and then you run. And in between the swim and the bike, there's a transition where you change from your swim stuff to your bike stuff, and then there's a transition from the bike to run. Triathlons can come in all different distances. So they start with, Chicago is one of the greatest ones actually, because it has what's called the super sprint. It's not listed on here, but it's about a 300-meter swim. Typically it's like a 6-mile bike or so. Right, it's 12-mile, but and then a mile run. So that's a great triathlon to do if you are kind of like, I'm not sure yet, like, and they do it the day before the Chicago Triathlon. And not very many, it's not a very common thing, and I think there should be more of them. But so I highly recommend that if you're really still on the fence. Then we jump into the ones you'll typically see. So we have our sprint distance and our Olympic distance. The easy thing to remember about distances in triathlons is they typically just double. So your sprint distance, you have about a quarter-mile swim. There's no hard set rule as to how long they are, so these distances are like about that. Every race is different. 12 to 14 mile bike, and then you have a 5K run. So that's your sprint distance. Who signed up for the Sprint of Chicago? Okay, nice. Anybody signed up for the Olympic or International? Okay, awesome. So that's just double. So you're about a mile of a swim, about 25-mile bike, and then it's a 10K run. From there, you keep doubling. So if anybody's heard of like the half iron distance, that's doubling that 1.2, the swim's a little bit shorter, but 1.2 mile swim, 56-mile bike, and then a half marathon. And then you get the full iron distance, which is double that. So, so that's kind of how the distances work, and that's what you'll see in most of the time when you're looking at registrations. Like if you're thinking about doing a sprint de ski, which we'll talk about more in June, that's only a sprint distance, so you don't have to choose, but a great race. Any questions on that, on distances and, no, pretty straightforward, okay. Let's see, so how does it all work? So I think, who has watched a triathlon? A lot of people. Has anybody never really seen a triathlon before? Okay, awesome. So I like to, these are all pictures from last year from Esprit de Ski. And I like to put them up here so we can kind of talk through how exactly does a triathlon work. So you'll be put into a wave. So in those wave sizes are different depending on the race. Esprit de Ski is like 50 people. Chicago Triathlon is 150 people. So that's, and I mean, I've done triathlons where there were 2 people, like in my wave, you know. It's also the only time I got second place because there were 2 of us. So I wear that cowbell proudly. This is what it's looking at the wave start. There's typically either 2 ways a triathlon starts. It's either a beach start, which is kind of what they're showing here, though it's not, which is where you start on the beach and then you run into the water and then you start swimming. Or like Chicago, you start in the water and then the horn goes off and then you start swimming. So those are the 2 different, and I mean, those are all things as you start, getting into your triathlon careers, like, looking at different races, what do I feel more comfortable with, kind of things like that. So this is kind of showing the swim start. So a big group of people go to all start at the same time. Esprit de Ski, again, I'm going to keep plugging it because I think it's great if you've never done a triathlon. It happens in a quarry. So as you can see, in Esprit de Ski, you can actually touch half of the time, which can be a positive and a negative. So you swim and then you water run a little bit. But so you basically, so you swim as a group, and the group starts to break apart as people swim different speeds and things like that. Again, just some more pictures of kind of the swim. You come out of the water and then you run, typically, or walk, whatever it is, to the transition zone, which is this picture right here. So basically, a bunch of racks lined up with your bikes on it and your stuff around your bike. As you can see, there's a lot of bikes in there, and that's part of, I think the logistics of triathlons sometimes can be the most intimidating part of it all, but that's why, over the summer we do lots of transition clinics. How do I find my bike? That's part of the skill of triathlons, is figuring out where your bike is. So you go into transition, you would then, whether you're wearing a wetsuit or whatever, switch to your helmet, your, bike shoes. In triathlons, and I'm not going to dive too much into all of this, but you wear the same thing throughout the swim, the bike, and the run. So that's the triathlon clothing is made to swim in, bike in, and run in. So you never change, you just add layers on and take layers off. As you can see here, you then run your bike to the start of a bike, so there'll be a bike start line. You get on your bike at that line, and then you take off riding, so that's what kind of those pictures are. And then you come back to transition, drop your bike off, and the easy one is then you just head out for the run. So that's kind of the sequence of events in a triathlon. Any questions on that yet? How it all works? Yeah?
How do you get then back to your bike once your run is over?
So typically, the way that triathlons, most of the time, they'll all, the finish line won't be that far away from the transition zone. So like a Esprit de Ski, it's maybe a 5-minute walk. So then you just walk back. Chicago, same thing, your transition zone is Monroe Harbor and it ends in Grant Park, so it's a little bit of a walk. But yeah, so, and then there are some, there's one in Napa where they bus you back. But most of the time they'll end somewhere close, and you kind of keep coming back to the same area. So, yeah, good question. Any other questions? No? All right. So we like to use the word grit a lot in any way we can. So basically you're here in November, which means one, you're thinking about it or you've decided to do it. So the way we tackle triathlons is with grit. So step one is having a goal. You know, it's like Sabrina talked about today, you just finally signed up, like, and that's it. You know, and sometimes I do think that's, if you want to do it, just sign up, because then you're going to be a lot more committed to it, and that's typically the hardest part, is just clicking the, like, yep, okay, we're here. But finding a goal and whatever that is, you know, if you're still questioning what races, what distances, again, that's when please, like, reach out to us. We can talk through, you know, based on how much time you have, where you're coming from, like, you know, what you want to do. We can figure out what works best for you. So, but just picking out a goal is step one. And then step two, we like to say, is the R of grit, the right tools. So, talk about it a little, but the good thing about it is that you actually don't need much to do a triathlon. Like, a lot of times, you know, like, there is a lot of stuff in here, and very little of it do you actually need. Now, if you get into the sport, I guarantee you that's when you start to want things, but there's a very big difference between needing it and wanting it. Like, you can do a triathlon on any bike you have, and that's kind of what we say is, like, you know, let's work with what you have. Let's get you that set up the right way so that you can be comfortable and not spending too much energy, and just do it and see if you like it. And then if you like it, then start deciding. Or over the summer, as you get more and more into it, you'll figure out what it is that you want. So we'll talk a little bit about, like, what are the things you need, what is the purpose of a lot of the stuff you'll see. Inspiration, so that's the community. That's what we're most passionate about and biggest on. It's like having a group of people to do it with, or even if that's an online community. I'll talk about a little bit about a few of the online, like, forums that it's like, I mean, they have like 500,000 people that just comment and talk to each other on it, like, all about, you know, women in triathlons and stuff, and so there's a lot out there. And then the training, then it's just doing it, you know, and doing it in whatever capacity you want to do it. You know, like, some people, you know, want to finish, and that's awesome, and we'll get you to that place. You know, some people have specific time goals. That's awesome. We'll get you to that place. Like, whatever it is your goal is, then it's just a matter of setting up a plan and getting out and doing it. So the first part, the goal. So I wanted to talk about two specific ones. There are tons of triathlons out there, and there are a ton that are very close. But if you're thinking about next year doing your first, two to consider there's Esprit de Ski and then Chicago. They're quite a, you know, June is when Esprit de Ski is, and then Chicago's in August. Both of them we do programs for. This will be the first year we do a program with Esprit de Ski, which is essentially very similar to the Chicago First Timers program. However, it's more about the education. You don't have to be a first timer. It's anybody that wants a community of people to do it with, and education and training and stuff like that. You can be a part of the Live Grit program. To be honest, we're still trying to think of an adjective that goes in there. So it will be something else, but it's the Live Grit something program. The Esprit de Ski, they haven't opened it yet, but the date's going to be June 11th. If you are in the First Timers program of Chicago, I still highly recommend you do Esprit de Ski if you can. It is probably one of the friendliest, fun races there is. Like, even just going out, you know, even if you don't feel totally prepared, it's just a very supportive environment. So I would suggest either doing it or going out to watch it or whatever. We have a lot of people that do our First Timers program, but do this one at the beginning of the summer to get your feet wet. So just something to think about. We'll have more information on those, you know, if you are interested in Esprit de Ski. First Timers program, in case you don't know, it's a program we do with Chicago Triathlon, 450 people doing their first triathlons. So you're only in a wave with other people doing their first triathlon, which takes away some of the intimidation, some of the, everybody's kind of in the same place. Like, so again, everybody's heard, I'm sure, the stories of people getting, you know, knocked in the water and stuff like that. And it does happen. I can never say that it's been so dramatic to me that I think about it more than 2 seconds. But but that stuff does happen. In the first timers program, what we find is people are just way more friendly to each other because everybody's kind of in the same place versus I'd say 99% of triathletes are very nice people. You do get like 1% that it's like, you know, we could live without you doing triathlons. But yeah, so that's kind of first timer program. We do clinics all summer. It's yeah, it's great. It's fun. You meet great people. Any questions on those two races specifically? Yeah.
I did the sprint to Ski last year.
Awesome.
But Chicago scared me because of Lake Michigan.
Totally.
Would I still be able to do the first timers?
I think this question has come up. Technically, like they say, like you, that it's the first timers program, but how I phrase it, it's like if you still want some support and are intimidated by it, and that's kind of a hurdle or what's been stopping you from doing it, 100%. Like we won't tell if you don't tell. Like so, yes, so 100%. Any other questions on those two races? All right, so the right tools. This is kind of a brief overview of equipment. Again, not the most important piece to take away. It's things to start thinking about now, but this is stuff that we'll dive more into, you know, when spring comes and we're kind of dive more into it. But so really there's 4 disciplines of a triathlon: the swim, bike, run, and then transitions, you know, should be a sport of itself, like setting your stuff up. I mean, we had a guy in last winter who, he doesn't care what, you know, how fast he runs or rides his bike. He only cares about, he holds the record in shortest transitions. And that is all he cares about. And so he, you know, showed us how he, I don't even know, flies onto his bike and he literally like wears everything underneath his wetsuit. It's crazy, but that's what he loves to do. So transitions can be a sport in and of itself if you want it to be. Also the good thing is that's also where, you know, people always finish their first or any triathlon and are like, oh, you know, I'd like to do it 2 minutes faster next year. Well, typically when our transition time's like 13 minutes or something, that's a good easy place without having to do much. Like you don't have to get up at 6 a.m. and run to make that shorter. You know, you just tie your shoes beforehand or something. Like so transition's a great place to shave time off of without having to do much. So in general stuff, all this gear, it will either make you more comfortable, it will make you faster, or it will make something easier. That's what all this stuff is. So when you look around, like that, I mean, that's really why aero wheels exist. Like, I mean, it's, you know, for a certain individual, they will make you faster. Does that, I mean, do you need them? No, you don't. Like, and typically we're talking about, like, you know, when you get to longer distances and stuff, you know, same thing with like aero helmets. Like, why do they exist? Because technically, yes, they make you a little bit faster, you know, and but do you need it? No. Maybe you want it at some point, sure. But so we come up with what are the things that you do need to do a triathlon, and there's not much. Typically, the only things that are actually required in a triathlon is a helmet and a bike with gears. Or with brakes. You can't have like a fixed gear bike. That's the only thing you absolutely need. If you don't want to run in shoes, they don't care. Like if you don't want to swim in goggles, they don't care. I do think they may require a certain level of clothing, but I'm not sure. That's always debatable actually, and you'll see what I mean when you go out there sometime. But things that you probably will want, and this card, one, I think Rashawn is printing it out, and 2 is on our website. So if you ever want to go back and look at it. But for the swim, so talked a little bit about triathlon clothing, and I actually meant to bring it. Yeah. So triathlon clothing. So I'll wait till she gets back, Kristen gets back with it to show it. But they'll give you a swim cap, so you don't even have to remember that. That's probably a good thing to have, though, you know, when we're swimming in open water, and especially if you have longer hair, like it just makes it easier. Goggles. I mean, I would highly suggest goggles. Again, you don't have to have them, but if you've ever heard about Lake Michigan, you definitely want them. So there's something called, in open water goggles is how we phrase it, and And basically it's just a thicker goggle versus like if you were ever like high school swimmer or something, like the real small goggles. You want something that sticks on the face or has good suction because you are dealing with waves and stuff like that. And we have all that stuff on the other side. We'll do clinics on it and stuff, so I'm not going to dive too much into it. But so that's really all you need with the swim. The bike, like I said, a helmet. They do require a helmet. Helmets do have a lifespan, so if you're pulling your one out from like when you were in middle school, it's probably not safe anymore. They build up with air inside of it, so then it's like wearing a C-grade helmet, which is not necessarily what we want to do. So helmet important. A bike, you do have to have some form of a bike. It can be any bike. And that's what we say. Like if you have a mountain bike sitting in your garage, and you want to start on that, yep, are there things you probably will want to do, like change the tires a little bit to make it easier? Easy enough. So, perfect. That's totally fine. So I'll pass it around, but this is triathlon clothing. So the shorts, they dry quickly. They have a padding for the bike, but it's not very thick. And then the shirt, same thing. It's tight fitting. Sometimes people will just swim in this without a wetsuit, so that's why triathlon clothing is uncomfortably tight sometimes, but it's so that you don't have drag. So I'll just pass this around so everybody can see what triathlon stuff looks like.
Do you suggest a wetsuit?
So wetsuits are 100%. I personally, if you were a college swimmer or something and just love swimming in open water all of the time, then we might have a different conversation based off of water temperature and stuff like that. But that's why you'll even see like pros wearing wetsuits. Because short wetsuits keep you warm, and that matters when we go get in the lake in May and it's 50 degrees. But more importantly is that they keep you buoyant. So a wetsuit's designed to keep you on top of the water like this. Most of us who maybe didn't grow up swimming our whole lives swim a little bit like this, and so that's just drag in your feet. So wetsuit, if you'll see, it's very hard to stand in a wetsuit like this. It will flip you into kind of a horizontal position. So wetsuit is my favorite thing. You get to pretend like a superhero for a day, but they're great. And we rent wetsuits down at the beach every Saturday morning, just for like $10. Because what I also say is if you're questionable about it, just come rent one and try it out. But most people are like, this is amazing. Because they make you like this, they make you rotate easier, which just makes swimming, for most of us, again, swimming's about getting from point A to point B with expending the least amount of energy possible. And a lot of myself, I'm spending a lot of energy not going very far, so a wetsuit really helps with that. So, yeah. But not necessary. Chicago, so Esprit de Ski's the water sometimes can be 80, the water can sometimes be 60, so it's in a quarry, so it's kind of weird. Chicago has never not been wetsuit legal. There will become a temperature that you can't wear a wetsuit. It's like 78 degrees or so, because it's just too hot. That's never been a problem with Chicago. The last couple of years, it's actually dropped pretty low to 60. Well, 2 years ago, it dropped to 60, which was really cold for August. So, also the thing about Chicago why I think a wetsuit is a good idea is because it's a huge track. That's 8,000 people. It's 150 people going every 5 minutes. So it's just a comfort thing too. That's what you want to do this race the most comfortable that you can be. And if you can take away a little bit of that fear of being in Lake Michigan with 8,000 other people with a wetsuit, then go for it. Yeah, then I think it's good. So that was a long-winded answer, I apologize, but that's my view on wetsuits. So we have bikes, shoes, and socks. So another area that we'll talk about, not necessarily today, is clipping in. Has anybody kind of heard of that? You can either ride a bike with a flat pedal in your sneaker, or you can get bike shoes and you clip into a pedal system so that they work together. It's one of those things, there are, a wetsuit, I am a strong fan of, I say yes. Clipping in, you don't need to do it today, but if you enjoy the sport, it's one of those things that it will make your life 10,000 times easier, because you're using a lot less energy to have a lot more power. So, but we'll talk all about that. I mean, we have Anne back there. I mean, she does multiple clinics over the winter on bike maintenance, on cycling in general, like what is what are the different pedals and shoe systems and things like that. So, so we have all winter to kind of dive into that. And then running, I mean, easy enough. Running shoes, we were struggling for a third because you don't need much for running, so we put sunglasses. If it's sunny out, you probably want sunglasses. And then race belt. This is another one, and I apologize, I totally did not bring anything over today, but there's a belt that you put a number on. It's one of those strange things in triathlons that, again, I say yes, it'll make your life 10 times easier. So the thing is, like, if you've done a 5K and you put your bib on your shirt with safety pins, you don't want that on the bike because the wind will just smack it around. It will be annoying for an hour. Like, so this race belt, you just put it on and then go out on the run. So those are really the only things that we like strongly recommend. Yes,
gotta have props.
Yes. So I mean, this is what a race belt looks like. It's very simple. It's very easy. So yeah. Any questions on gear at this point? I mean, is there anything anybody's kind of been wondering about, or?
You recommend a race belt? The one I have always like comes up when I run.
Slides. So that, I mean,
keep it.
Yeah, and we're gonna get a new company in that supposedly has it's supposed to sit better, because honestly that's a problem. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's like it always they ride up, you know, and so then I end up having it like pulled down like as far. Yeah, they're just. I mean, I don't find them the most comfortable. We do have a new brand that's coming in that supposedly has solved this problem. So yeah, so we'll have to get some testers to see. Yeah. Any other questions on gear stuff? Okay. All right. So then everybody's obviously here in November, which is awesome, which means you're thinking about it. Like I said, I think doing a triathlon, especially your first one, and all of them, is more fun and easier when you do it with a group or have some kind of support that you can ask questions to. You can say like, hey, this is how, this is how I'm feeling, like, have you felt this? Or, like just even swimming in Lake Michigan is a lot more fun when you can look over and there's somebody there and you're not just swimming by yourself in the middle of Lake Michigan. So, so finding, whatever that is that works for you. I mean, some people are big fans of doing running on their own. Like whatever works for you is great. But just some options, some suggestions that we have. One, plugging us, like Live Grit, our programs. It's a ready-made group of people, whether it's the first timers program or any of our other stuff. And all of our stuff is, we do have some like more formal programs, like Swim Club is a coach thing. We have a CompuTrainer studio, which is like an indoor bike studio. That stuff you have to sign up for. But all of our other things, like tomorrow's night's women's run, just show up. Sunday morning rides. So starting in April, we ride every Sunday morning. We have two different groups. One is a longer ride that goes southwest, and then there's a shorter ride that starts in like April at doing 8 miles. And then we kind of build up from there up until the triathlon. So every Sunday morning. Women for Tri. This is, if you haven't found this group yet, so it's a group, it was started by the Ironman people, and it was more to kind of encourage more women to get into the sport of triathlons. Really, it's an online forum, like on Facebook. If you type in Women for Tri, you'll find this closed group. I mean, it says like 500,000 people in it or so, but it's awesome. I mean, people talk about everything and ask questions, and so I would just suggest looking at that. We also will do a bunch of like swim clinics over the summer that are with the group Women for Tri, so it'll just be like women getting into open water. So just something to check out. If the West Loop's not convenient, or you don't like us or something, there's other groups, so don't think there's lots out there. So Tri Monsters, if you happen to be a member of FFC, Tri Monsters is out of FFC, great group. Chicago Tri Club, and also you can be part of more groups than just one. But Chicago Tri Club is another one that they do a lot of stuff down at the beach. So there's lots of resources in Chicago. That's actually what's amazing is, we don't live in the most optimal triathlon climate. But there are tons of groups. I mean, you go down to the beach every Saturday, and there are 500 people down there, you know, throughout the morning. So it's fun. Yeah, any questions on like groups in Chicago or anything like that, or what we offer or events? No? Okay.
When do you start swimming in Lake Michigan?
So
How early can
we like to be the first.
Okay.
So typically it's like a week before Memorial Day. So typically it involves us walking in, putting our foot in, and being like, nope. But yeah, so we start in May. So yeah, and it will. I mean, June can be a little chilly. Like the water will lags between the temperature, and it really depends. You can have one random storm or something that turns the water into 75 degrees. So it just fluctuates a lot. But we try to get in really early. And yeah, so we swim every Saturday. We tend to do like Monday night open water as well, every Monday night. And then if you are doing Chicago Triathlon, they do a series on Tuesday nights starting in June. That's awesome. It's great. They, you'll get the emails as you go in, but you just sign up, you show up down at Ohio Street Beach. There's 20 different coaches. You get in a group, and it's a really fun thing too. So there's lots of open water kind of opportunities, but we like to get in early. And if you are interested, there is a group that swims 365 days a year. So you don't have to wait till May. You could go next Saturday. Yeah, so Open Water Chicago, if you have any interest. I will not be there. So training. So this is a big question. A lot of people, it's like, so what do I do? When do I start? All of that stuff. All very valid questions. So it's where we're going to bring in Kristen to kind of give a little brief overview, and then and this is another thing we'll kind of build upon over the winter. So,
yeah. So training, there's a lot of it, but right now we have a lot of time, and just because the weather's getting cold doesn't mean we can't start. So right now, what you want to do is start taking an inventory of yourself. Think about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your fears might be, and then figure out ways to work on those. So you're going to want to prioritize your weaknesses. So if you can't swim at all, you might want to start taking swimming lessons. If you're a little weak on the bike, we have the comp trainer studio like you're inside, and we've got a variety of classes that focus on different things from building endurance to proper technique. And that's a nice, safe environment to do it rather than getting out there on the road and worrying about tipping over, getting hit by cars, or what have you. So think about what your weaknesses are and come up with a plan to address them, because now is a great time to do it. What else are you going to do in the winter? The second thing you want to do is think about your time. Think about how much time you have, what time you like to work out, what other commitments you have that might interfere with it, or how can you work around it. Think about what time of day you want to work out. We all have different time availability, so it doesn't matter if you have 12 hours a week that you can spend or only 3. We can work with that and get you to where you want to go. Same thing goes with where you are with your other sports, whether you've never run a day in your life. We have time to work with that. You can start building up your endurance, starting with like 30 seconds of running, and just keep adding it on right now. Or if you've been a marathon runner, we don't need to really worry about that. We can focus on one of the other areas. So we've talked about taking an inventory of your strengths and weaknesses, talked about your time, and the last thing you want to think about is your equipment. Like she said, you don't need a lot of stuff to do it. Think about what you do have and what holes you still need to fill in there. Set a budget, start prioritizing things from what you absolutely need to what you might really want, and then work through that. We do have a lot of time, so you can spread some of that out so it's not this giant sticker shock of, oh my gosh, I have to spend $1,000. You don't. Not at all. Any bike, minus the fixed gear thing.
yeah.
Bike, helmet, that's pretty much all you need in something to wear. So you can start working on that, and right now is a great time to make that list. Not only do we have the holidays coming, so you can start making your little Christmas list, and somebody else can contribute to preparing yourself for a try. It's also a great time to start looking for deals, because the inventory is going to turn over. We're going to get new bikes in, so this year's models will be a little bit cheaper. And you'll see that throughout with wetsuits. Those will start to go on sale as we bring in the new models. And other people are, maybe advancing their equipment, and that's another great resource. Like that Women for Tri, they have a lot of opportunities for you to check out, use here, because once you get involved in it, you start to accumulate, and pretty soon you have 3 wetsuits, and you're like, I don't need 3 wetsuits. There's somebody else that can benefit from this. So, we kind of touched on this. There's no reason to not get started now just because it's winter and we've got, 8-9 months until the Chicago Tri. That's a lot of time, and there's a lot you can be doing in there. So you can look into training, you can start looking into your equipment, just kind of start thinking about how life is going to look while you're training for it, and start setting those good habits of, if you realize you're going to have to work out early in the morning, each week start setting the clock back a little earlier so that you can get up at 5 without it being absolutely devastating when it comes time to train. Do you have any questions about training or getting started here? All right, I have cards, and afterwards you can talk to me about any of that. We do offer private coaching, which if you are someone that has a glaring weakness that you just don't even know where to start, that's a good option. If you're someone that has, very time crunched and just don't know how to juggle your schedule and need someone to help manage that, that's another great option. And then we do have all of the group programs, which you can check out online.
I'll see everybody at Running Club tomorrow.
What time is the run club?
6.
I was like, it's Tuesday, it's Monday.
So every third
Monday
yeah.
is ladies' night, and every Tuesday is.
I was on Wednesday, it's a long day, so.
Yeah. So every third. We just started this. Yeah, every third Monday it's just a ladies' night run, and then every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. we have a fun run. So that's So. And training that's if you join either the first timers or the Esprit de Ski, like I said, you will get that is kind of one of the benefits of doing that is you'll get direction in training, yeah. I mean, it seems like a long time off, so I won't dive too much into it, but just starting to think about, then what does the day actually look like? So with any triathlon, because there's a bit more logistics than just going out on a 5K, a 5K, it's hard to get lost and, whatever. But triathlons, there's a bit more logistics. What side of the road do you ride on? Chicago's a weird one that when you're going north, you have to ride on a different side than that's intuitive. How does the swim start? What time? Do I start at 7:32 or 7:37? So you will go to a course talk in any triathlon beforehand that will talk about the rules, how the course is laid out, all of that. Chicago, luckily, we do them in the store, and then you can go at any, all weekend. Esprit de Ski is one day, the day before you do it. You'll be able to see your transition area. I think the big thing about triathlons and the day of is just leave yourself a lot of time. You never want to be rushed. Because you gotta find where your bike goes, you wanna set up your stuff. So, but all of this stuff, by that point, we will have transition day where we all practice transitions, or we do a do-it-yourself triathlon down at the beach, and you will have done that, so it will all be easy. A lot of this is kind of self-explanatory, but just kind of giving a picture of how the day works. You'll be given a start time. Sometimes, unfortunately, that means you stand around for an hour or so, but luckily there's usually entertainment. You can watch other people, and then you kind of go in the water, and then typically at the end of the race there'll be some kind of festival or party like all races. So, but biggest thing is getting us all to a place that we can go that day, take a deep breath, and enjoy it. That's why this store was started, or this community, and that's why we do these programs, is triathlon should be fun. At this point, typically, and I remember myself, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, but, in 9 months we will get rid of that all, and it'll be a fun day. So, so that's kind of race day. I apologize. I don't love that slide. It's out. any questions at this point? Or did anybody want to come in here and learn something specific, whether it's on how the race works or gear or something that wasn't answered, or have questions about next steps or any of that? Everybody? All right. Is everybody who was on the fence going home to sign up?
I am.
That's awesome. Nice. Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of the overview. So now I think at this point, you know, it's starting to dive a little bit more. You know, coming to some of our like bike classes. I think actually next week is bike maintenance. So if you've never fixed a flat tire, I mean, it's a fun winter activity. You know, starting to come to that stuff. Just starting to, you know, whatever works for you. You know, getting involved with like you know, runs and rides and stuff.
Is the list of all that on your website?
All on our website, yeah. So that if you go on there, it should say like programs and events, and we have a whole calendar. You know, don't miss our wetsuit formal in February. So we will be renting attire for that if you need a wetsuit to attend. Yes, yeah. We all have wetsuits that who wears them for, you know, 9 months out of the year. So we did a wetsuit formal last year. So it was kind of a wetsuit prom.
So comfortable.
Oh yeah. I mean, I jacked. Luckily that day it was like -20, so we opened the doors and yeah, we had bow ties and pearls. Yeah. So more so. I mean, it's triathlons. It should be fun. Not that, I mean, you have goals, you work hard towards those goals, and that's awesome, but never forget that this is all fun. And it should be an addition to your life, not a stressor. And if you get to a place where you feel like I'm dreading this or whatever, there's probably a reason, and we can work through that. You know, it's, and so just always trying to remember that. It should be fun, should be an addition to your life, and not something that overwhelms you. So, I think that's all I have, unless there's any, and my email address is gillian@livegrit.com. Like, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Kristen, Ann, any bike-related thing in the world. She's your lady. Yeah, so. All right, well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming.